Yeah, so speaking of the album, congratulations on the new record, Bloodline. It's been out for a
Thank
little
you.
bit, right?
Yeah, it's been out for just over a month now, I think. Yeah.
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 And how has that been releasing the album at this point in time with all the stuff going on, especially in Australia?
Well, it's such a weird time to be releasing an album because I think that everything that you would usually do around like everything I've done in the past with releasing EPs or singles is, you go out and promo them and you play live and you kind of meet people and you kind of, have conversations. And we were supposed to go on this tour in the US, which is going to take us kind of across the US and then end up in London. And we are going to do some live recordings in Berlin. So that just kind of all went out the window and all the
Yeah.
promo and everything that we're going to do with it. So, but it's been pretty amazing. I mean, in this day and age with technology and social media, and you can still connect. And I've done a lot of live Instagram things, and yeah, the feedback has been amazing, and the support for it's been awesome. So, I'm pretty happy.
Very good. So I know you're originally from New Zealand. As you mentioned, your family is in Wellington. So how long has it been since you've been here?
Oh man, I think I left New Zealand like when I was about 17, and I moved over to London,
Yeah.
and so it's been like 10 years, 11 years now. So yeah, it's been a while, and I mean I've gone back a lot. I go back a lot. Well, not right now, but like usually
Yeah.
I'd go back 4 or 5 times a year. Um, because my entire family's there. But yeah, I just kind of ended up in Melbourne and ended up kind of traveling around the US and everything. So just haven't really moved back. I don't know if I will.
So when you left, were you thinking in terms of being a musician and a vocalist and a songwriter and all that? Was that the plan, or were you just wanted to get out?
Yeah, I went over to London to do like essentially a boy band, like One Direction or something like
Right.
that, which was an experience for sure. But that kind of fell apart after about 6 months, and then met up with a few other musicians, and we just kind of started a band, which I was the lead singer of, and we got signed to a label. So yeah, the intention was to kind of go over there and do music, and it's kind of snowballed from there, really.
Hmm. So my understanding is that you made quite an impression on The Voice in Australia, and that's kind of what got things rolling for you ultimately. Is that right?
I don't know. I don't know if I made quite the impression. I mean, I got to the semifinals of the first season of The Voice, which is something that I don't know. Those shows are just something I never really thought of myself doing, and then I kind of was speaking to labels when I got back from London to Australia, and they were kind of like, "Oh, do the show, and then then we'll talk more about doing working with you and everything, but we want you to do the show first, and then." We'll kind of go from there. So I did the show, and nothing really happened with the labels from there after that. But I mean, I think a lot of people have come out of it with like a great experience. I think a lot of people have come out of it with like a not like a really bad experience, like almost a scarring experience. And then I just
Right.
kind of took it for what I got the best advice from my mentor, Joel Madden, and he just kind of said, dude, this is a TV show. At the end of the day, it's not anything to do with music really, and just
Right.
kind of take it for what it is and kind of have a good time. So yeah, I was kind of just pretty chill during the whole thing, and I was kind of like, I'll just see how far it gets me, and it ended up going quite far. So it was good.
Yeah, there you go. So the songs that comprise Bloodline, where do those, how did those develop, and where did they come from, and when were they written, and that kind of thing?
Well, we wrote the majority of the album. Well, we wrote it last year, and when I say we, me and a really good friend of mine, Katie Carr, who's my songwriting partner. I said to my independent label that I wanted to do a an album, and they said, yeah, cool, go for it. And so we started writing it, and we kind of started in Melbourne, and then we wrote with a whole bunch of people in LA, and in Nashville, which is like, I've been based in Nashville for the past 4 years.
Really?
um, yeah, so that was yeah, the past 4 years have been fun in Nashville. But I'm really glad that I'm not there now, though, because I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
everything.
yeah. It sounds like you bailed out at the right time. But I can imagine being
Yeah,
a songwriter in Nashville has got to be pure heaven. I mean, everybody and his mother's a songwriter. Everybody's a musician. What was it like for you?
It's like, I think a lot of people say, you go to LA and everyone that's like waiting tables or, bartending or whatever, like, they want to be an actor. And I feel like that's the same said as in Nashville. Like pretty much everyone has some sort of, or everyone that I met has some sort of tie to the music industry. And it's just a really big kind of growing industry over there. I think the music industry is the fastest growing industry in Nashville, and then the medical industry. So kind of one or the other. But
And it's not just country music there anymore.
No, it's definitely not. And I think that's the one thing when I say to people that I was either based in Nashville or I was kind of, going to write this album, like a lot of the songwriting sessions and a lot of the producers we're working with were in Nashville, they would automatically assume that I was a country artist. But the music industry is growing so much over there.
And did you run into any other fellow musicians from down under in Nashville? Because I know of a few that are over there.
Yeah, there was a whole bunch of people that I had met that were kind of coming through there for songwriting sessions and stuff. So, I mean, it's kind of turned into a pretty amazing hub for, internationally as well as, just for the US.
Right. So are some of the songs that are on the record from writing in Nashville?
Yeah, so the title track, sorry, not the title track, the first song, Give Me Something, was a song that I wrote with a producer and friend of mine, Jeff Duncan. And then we kind of continued on from Nashville and went to New York, wrote there, and we wrote some stuff in Berlin. And then I wrote with a really good friend of mine in London, Marty Koa. And essentially the majority of the album was actually produced in London by two different producers. But we kind of went and collected and wrote and got a whole bunch of material. I think we ended up with about 40 songs at the end, and then we cut 30 of them, maybe not fully finished, but definitely some sort of fleshed out idea, Katie and I. But yeah. I think that when we wrote Lay Me Down, which was the lead single in LA, that was kind of our first stop. And then as soon as we had that song, we were super pumped about that. And we kind of then grew the rest of the album and the sound and the vibe and everything around that track. So that was a pretty important moment, I think, for this album, was that it inspired the rest of it.
And did it kind of set the tone for what the music was going to sound like for the rest of the album as well?
Yeah, definitely. And I think even though we didn't have like the full production, we had the demo of it, but it was really dark, but it was still kind of like driving. And it like not necessarily the lyrics weren't super dark, but it was very moody. But it was still driving, and then it had a very anthemic kind of vocal chorus, which is what I really wanted to do in all of the choruses is make them sound, as big as possible, but not with a lot of instrumentation, but more with vocal harmonies and having a big BV section and stuff, and have it more like a choir kind of sing-along kind of idea.
Right.
What we're for, yeah.
Well, that explains the reference to Nashville and Chasing Lights, because I caught that. I wasn't aware that you had spent time in Nashville, so there you go.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time going back and forth from there. I mean, I was essentially based there for the past 4 years, but I mean, I just never really wanted to make the move to live there full time, because I don't know why, actually. There was just something about it that was kind of a bit... It's a weird melting pot as well of like very religious people and then very creative. So it's kind of like that kind of all comes together in a very strange way, which...
Especially now, it's even probably stranger. So I think you probably made the right choice there. So what have you been doing in the meantime now that the album is out, but you're kind of stuck there in Australia?
Well, I guess I've just been, we've been releasing, we've got a lot of stuff that we had planned to do that we couldn't because we couldn't travel. So I've been up in Byron Bay. I've been in the studio a lot up here. It's actually Bernard Fanning's studio that we're using at the moment. So we've just been writing and recording stuff, which we're maybe releasing later on this year or maybe next year. We're not really sure yet. But and then just kind of pushing the album as much as you can these days online through live videos and live kind of shows, and then also creating content like we had a we had a drunken idea to kind of do a music video, like a Zoom call setup, but different boxes, and then all the animation was kind of flowing through all of them. So we just finished that. So that's coming out for Revelry.
Oh, good.
So that's exciting.
Which song is that going to be for?
Revelry.
Revelry. Oh, yes. There's kind of a gospel feel to that one, I noticed.
Yeah, that one kind of has that kind of, maybe that a little bit of like a country rock roots, I guess. Yeah, and there's kind of it's got some dark subject matter, I
guess. And so, who do you have somebody in mind when you're recording these songs as who your audience is? Are they?
I mean, I think that my audience seems to be, which I've kind of found of recent years, is that I am very emotive in what I do, and the way that I kind of sing, the things that I sing about, and the honesty, I guess, in the lyrics. And I think a lot of the feedback that I've had is that people say to me, when I listen to this song, this is what I thought about in my life, and it had nothing to do with what I thought about. So I think that the honesty in the lyrics and the emotion in the lyrics is kind of what I really need to kind of get across for myself. But then also, I think people that listen to my music can gravitate towards that, and they're able to put it in their own lives and kind of make it about the situation, and whether that helps them or kind of just shines a light on something maybe they didn't really want to face, then I think that that's kind of the fan base that I write for. So I think it's pretty awesome that they're coming back about scenarios and different events in their lives that I would never have thought could relate to that, but they have. So that's kind of pretty exciting.
Yeah. I would imagine the most frustrating thing about being in this situation with the album just out is that you don't have a lot of personal interaction with people talking about what the songs mean to them, how they react to them, blah, blah, blah.
And just not being able to play anything live. Like, we went into the studio the other day, and we did kind of like a live run through of one of the tracks from the album, and I just realized that it was the first time that I had ever played any of the songs live with the band, because we had no need to, because the tour was cancelled, so there was no need for rehearsal or anything like that. And the album's been out, but also, by this point, I feel like I would have played them 1,000 times each. So it's kind of like really like a sad moment to realize that, because this is that's why I spend all the time in the studio and all the time writing and everything, is to be able to go out there and play them live, because that's kind of the true passion for me. So not being able to do that is really hard, because then I don't get to experience the songs myself in a live scenario, really. I mean, I can do as many Instagram lives as as I want, but it's not the same thing.
Not quite the same thing. What are your live shows like?
Well, I mean, my shows are, full of energy. We've got like a organic band. I try to make it as live and organic as possible. Which, sometimes my management are like, that's going to cost too much. You need to do some stuff. Because if I had it my way, I would have, like a 6-piece backing vocal section and like organs and
right.
But so, I mean, they're very intense and very like emotive and high energy and a lot of fun and very like inclusive, I think, as well. Like, I really love the side of it where the audience participates, or even just like singing along in different parts and everything. So I mean, yeah.
Have you done much performing in New Zealand?
Not really, actually. I haven't. I think ever since I went to the US, I haven't really played a gig in New Zealand for a long time. But this was the other thing that I was speaking to a couple of promoters about, coming out at the end of the year this year, to do some live stuff, and that's maybe still going ahead, but we're just gonna wait.
Well, I know things are pretty much up in the air over there with the kind of resurgence of something that happened. I don't know what exactly is happening over there, but it's kind of a little bit scary.
Yeah, it's just really weird, because like kind of overnight went from, oh yeah, we're all doing pretty well and numbers are tracking, to this complete clusterfuck of God knows what. So yeah, but I mean, I'm hoping that I can get out to New Zealand to play some shows really soon. Well, yeah, before the end of the year, like I had planned. So
Yeah. You're a New Zealand citizen, I assume.
yeah. I mean, I can get back at any point. I just have to
Yeah,
quarantine and
you just have to go into quarantine for 2 weeks.
for 2 weeks. Yeah, and I honestly think I would come out of that quarantine as a completely different person. So
I hear you.
come straight out of the hotel to maybe go to some sort of psychiatric center or something. I don't know if I would survive.
I think that's been happening, actually, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm not surprised. I really am not. I don't know. You know, like I like being, you know, alone and having time to myself, but not 2 weeks.
Right. I hear you. No, it's got to be tough for those people that are going through it, but what are you going to do, I guess? We've been pretty lucky here compared to other places in the world, so can't complain too much.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you for taking time to talk to me. And
my pleasure.
Hopefully the album will do well, whether or not you're on the road or not. I mean, I think the type of music it is, those songs come across whether or not you're there to sell them or not. You've done your thing. So.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm hoping that we can kind of just get a good foundation maybe this year of the album kind of being out there and then hitting the road next year and playing as many gigs as we can. So
cool. All righty. Well, thank you very much and good luck with everything.
Great to meet you. Thank you very much.
You too. Bye-bye.